Hi everyone, welcome to NITEAN Mythic. Let's continue the Little Mermaid story. Each progression she took was as the witch had said it would be. She felt as though she were stepping upon the purposes of needles or sharp blades. She bore it eagerly, nonetheless, and moved at the ruler's side as delicately as an air pocket, with the goal that he and all who saw her marveled at her elegant, influencing developments. She was extremely before long showed in exorbitant robes of silk and muslin and was the most lovely animal in the castle, yet she was idiotic and could neither talk nor sing. Lovely female slaves, wearing silk and gold, ventured forward and sang before the ruler and his regal guardians. One sang superior to all the others, and the ruler applauded and grinned at her. This was an extraordinary distress to the little mermaid, for she knew the amount all the more pleasantly she herself once could sing, and she thought, goodness, in the event that he could just realize that I have parted with my voice always to be with him. The slaves next played out some pretty pixie-like moves to the sound of wonderful music. At that point the little mermaid raised her dazzling white arms, remained on the tips of her toes, skimmed over the floor, and moved as nobody yet had the option to move. At every second her excellence was more uncovered, and her expressive eyes bid more straightforwardly to the heart than the tunes of the slaves. Each one was captivated, particularly the ruler, who called her his small foundling. She moved again promptly, to satisfy him, however each time her foot contacted the floor it appeared as though she trod on sharp blades. The sovereign said she ought to stay with him generally, and she was allowed to rest at his entryway, on a velvet pad. He had a page's dress made for her, that she may go with him riding a horse. They rode together through the aromatic woods, where the green branches contacted their shoulders, and the little winged creature sang among the new leaves. She moved with him to the highest points of high mountains, and in spite of the fact that her delicate feet rained so that even her means were stamped, she just grinned and tailed him till they could see the mists underneath them like a herd of fowls traveling to inaccessible grounds. While at the sovereign's castle, and when all the family were sleeping, she would proceed to sit on the wide marble benches, for it facilitated her consuming feet to wash them neglected ocean water. It was then that she thought of each one of those underneath in the profound. Once during the night her sisters came up affectionately intertwined, singing miserably as they skimmed on the water. She coaxed to them, and they perceived her and revealed to her how she had lamented them. From that point forward, they went to a similar spot each night. When she found out they're her old grandma, who had not been to the outside of the ocean for a long time, and the old sea king, her dad, with his crown on his head, they loosened up their hands towards her, however didn't wander so close to the land as her sisters had. As the days passed she cherished the sovereign all the more sincerely, and he adored her as one would adore a little kid. The idea never came to him to make her his significant other. However, except if he wedded her, she was unable to get an eternal soul, and on the morning after his marriage with another, she would break up into the froth of the ocean. "Do you not love me the best of all?" the eyes of the little mermaid appeared to state when he took her in his arms and kissed her reasonable temple. "Without a doubt, you are remarkable to me," said the ruler, "for you have the best heart, and you are the most dedicated to me. You look like a young woman whom I once watched, yet whom I will never meet again. I was in a vessel that was crushed, and the waves cast me ashore very nearly a radiant haven, where a couple of energetic women played out the organization. The most energetic of them found me on the shore and saved my life. I saw her yet twice, and she is the only one on the planet whom I could venerate. Regardless, you take after her, and you have about decided her image from my mind. She has a spot with the favored haven, and ideal karma has sent you to me in her stead. We will never part." "All right, he understands not that it was I who saved his life," thought the little mermaid. "I passed on him over the sea to the wood where the haven stands. I sat underneath the foam and saw till the people came to help him. I saw the totally woman that he loves better than he treasures me." The mermaid mumbled significantly. Anyway, she couldn't wail. "He says the woman has a spot with the sacrosanct asylum. Accordingly, she will remain away for the inconclusive future to the world. They will meet no more. I am close by and see him reliably. I will manage him and love him and give up my life to benefit he." Very soon it was said that the sovereign was to wed and that the excellent girl of a neighboring ruler would be his significant other, for a fine boat was being fitted out. Despite the fact that the ruler gave out that he expected simply to visit the Lord, it was commonly assumed that he went to court the princess. An extraordinary organization were to go with him. The little mermaid grinned and shook her head. She realized the ruler's contemplations superior to any of the others. "I should travel," he had said to her. "I should see this wonderful princess. My folks want it, however they won't oblige me to bring her home as my lady. I can't adore her, since she isn't care for the delightful lady in the sanctuary whom you take after. On the off chance that I had to pick a lady of the hour, I would pick you, my stupid foundling, with those expressive eyes." Then he kissed her ruddy mouth, played with her long, waving hair, and laid his head on her heart while she longed for human satisfaction and an unfading soul. "You are not terrified of the ocean, my imbecile kid, are you?" he stated, as they remained on the deck of the honorable boat which was to convey them to the nation of the neighboring ruler. At that point he advised her of tempest and of quiet, of abnormal fishes in the far below them, and of what the jumpers had seen there. She grinned at his portrayals, for she knew better than anyone what miracles were at the base of the ocean. In the twilight night, when already were snoozing aside from the man in charge, she sat at hand, looking down through the unmistakable water. She figured she could recognize her dad's stronghold, and upon it her matured grandma, with the silver crown on her head, glancing through the hurrying tide at the bottom of the vessel. At that point her sisters came up on the waves and looked at her sorrowfully, wringing their white hands. She allured to them and grinned and needed to reveal to them how cheerful and wealthy she was. Be that as it may, the lodge kid drew nearer, and when her sisters plunged down, he thought what he saw was just the froth of the ocean. The following morning the boat cruised into the harbor of a delightful town having a place with the ruler whom the sovereign was going to visit. The congregation chimes were ringing, and from the high pinnacles sounded a twist of trumpets. Fighters, without a hitch and sparkling knives, lined the streets through which they passed. Consistently was a celebration, balls and amusements tailing each other. However, the princess had not yet showed up. Individuals said that she had been raised and taught in a strict house, where she was learning each illustrious ethicalness. Finally she came. At that point the little mermaid, who was on edge to see whether she was extremely excellent, was obliged to concede that she had never observed a more ideal vision of excellence. Her skin was carefully reasonable, and underneath her long, dull eyelashes her giggling blue eyes shone with truth and virtue. "It was you," said the sovereign, "who spared my life when I lay as though dead on the seashore," and he collapsed his becoming flushed lady in his arms. "Gracious, I am excessively glad," said he to the little mermaid. "My fondest expectations are currently satisfied. You will cheer at my bliss, for your dedication to me is incredible and genuine." The little mermaid kissed his hand and felt as though her heart were at that point broken. His wedding morning would carry passing to her, and she would change into the froth of the ocean. All the congregation chimes rang, and the envoys rode through the town declaring the prearranged engagement. Perfumed oil was singed in exorbitant silver lights on each special stepped area. The ministers waved the censers, while the lady and the groom joined their hands and got the gift of the religious administrator. The little mermaid, wearing silk and gold, held up the lady's train. Yet her ears heard nothing of the bubbly music, and her eyes saw not the sacred function. She thought of the evening of death which was going to her, and of all she had lost on the planet. On a similar night the lady and husband got onto the boat. Guns were thundering, banners waving, and in the focal point of the boat an exorbitant tent of purple and gold had been raised. It contained exquisite dozing lounge chairs for the marriage pair during the night. The boat, under a good wind, with growing sails, coasted away easily and softly over the quiet ocean. At the point when it developed dim, various hued lights were lit, and the mariners moved cheerfully on the deck. The little mermaid couldn't resist thinking about her first emerging from the ocean, when she had seen comparable happy celebrations, so she excessively participated in the move, ready herself noticeable all around as a swallow when he seeks after his prey, and all present cheered her wonderingly. She had never moved so smoothly. Her delicate feet felt as though cut with sharp blades, however she thought about the agony. A more honed ache had pierced her heart. She realized this was the last night she ought to ever observe the ruler for whom she had spurned her related in her home. She had surrendered her excellent voice and languished unbelievable agony every day over him, while he knew nothing of it. This was the last night that she ought to inhale a similar air with him or look on the brilliant sky and the remote ocean. An interminable night, without an idea or a fantasy, anticipated her. She had no spirit and now would always lose one. Everything was satisfaction and mirth on the boat until long after 12 p.m. She grinned and hit the dance floor with the rest, while the idea of death was in her heart. The sovereign kissed his excellent lady of the hour and she played with his raven hair till they went affectionately intertwined to rest in the luxurious tent. At that point all turned out to be still ready. The boat, and just the pilot, who remained in charge, was alert. The little mermaid inclined her white arms on the edge of the vessel and looked towards the east for the principal become flushed of morning, for that first beam of the daybreak which was to be her demise. She saw her sisters emerging from the flood. They were as pale as she, however their lovely hair no longer waved in the breeze. It had been trimmed off. "We have given our hair to the witch," said they, "to acquire help for you, that you may not kick the bucket tonight. She has given us a blade. See, it is sharp. Before the sun rises you should dive it into the core of the sovereign. At the point when the warm blood falls upon your feet they will become together again into a fish's tail, and you will again be a mermaid, and can come back to us to experience your 300 years before you are changed into the salt ocean froth. Flurry, at that point, possibly here you should bite the dust before dawn. Our old grandma grieves so for you, that her white hair is falling, as our own fell under the witch's scissors. Murder the ruler, and return. Hurry. Do you not see the main red streaks in the sky? In almost no time the sun will rise, and you should kick the bucket." At that point they moaned profoundly and sadly, and sank underneath the waves. The little mermaid moved back the dark red shade of the tent and viewed the reasonable lady, whose head was laying on the sovereign's bosom. She twisted down and kissed his respectable forehead, at that point took a gander at the sky, on which the ruddy first light became more splendid and more brilliant. She looked at the sharp blade and again focused on the ruler, who murmured the name of his lady in his fantasies. She was in his considerations, and the blade shuddered in the hand of the little mermaid, however she flung it a long way from her into the waves. The water turned red where it fell, and the drops that sprayed up looked like blood. She cast one all the more waiting, half-blacking out look at the sovereign, at that point hurled herself from the boat into the ocean, and felt her body dissolving into froth. The sun transcended the waves, and his warm beams fell on the virus froth of the little mermaid, who didn't feel as though she were passing on. She saw the splendid sun and several straightforward excellent animals skimming around her. She could see through them the white sails of the boats and the red mists in the sky. Their discourse was sweet, however couldn't be heard by mortal ears, similarly as their bodies couldn't be seen by mortal eyes. The little mermaid saw that she had a body like theirs, and that she kept on ascending ever more elevated out of the froth. "Where am I?" asked she, and her voice sounded ethereal, similar to the voices of the individuals who were with her. No natural music could mimic it. Among the little girls of the air, addressed one of them. "A mermaid is not an everlasting soul, nor would she be able to get one except if she wins over a person. On the desire of another hangs her interminable predetermination. Yet, the girls of the air, in spite of the fact that they don't have an undying soul, can, by their great deeds, secure one for themselves. We fly to warm nations and cool the steamy air that decimates humankind with the plague. We convey the fragrance of the blossoms to spread well-being and reclamation. After we have made progress toward 300 years to do all the positive qualities in our capacity, we get a godlike soul and partake in the satisfaction of humanity. You, helpless little mermaid, have attempted with your entire heart to do as we are doing. You have endured and suffered and raised yourself to the soul world by your great deeds, and now, by making progress toward 300 years similarly, you may acquire an unfading soul." The little mermaid lifted her celebrated eyes toward the sun and, just because, felt them loading up with tears. On the boat wherein she had left the ruler there were life and commotion, and she saw him and his excellent lady looking for her. Tragically, they looked at the silvery froth as though they realized she had hurled herself entirely into the waves. Inconspicuous, she kissed the brow of the lady and fanned the ruler, and afterward mounted with different offspring of the air to a blushing cloud that glided previously. "Following 300 years, in this way, will we glide into the realm of paradise," said she. "Also, we may even arrive sooner," murmured one of her allies. "Inconspicuous, we can go into the places of men where there are kids, and for consistently on which we locate a decent kid that is the delight of his folks and merits their adoration, our season of probation is abbreviated. The kid doesn't have a clue, when we fly through the room, that we grin with bliss at his great direct, for we can check 1 year less of our 300 years. However, when we see a devious or an underhanded youngster we shed tears of distress, and for each tear a day is added to our season of preliminary." Thank you very much for watching the video. See you in the next story.